She looked into her father's eyes and said, "Dad, you're not invited." But she had no idea the entire wedding depended on the one man she had just sent away. Stay until the end to witness the shocking truth, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more unforgettable true life stories.
I never imagined that the happiest day of my daughter's life would become the day my heart was broken beyond repair. People often say that no love is stronger than a father's love. I believed that with every part of my soul. From the day my daughter was born, I made a promise that I would always stand beside her, no matter what life demanded from me. For 28 years, I kept that promise. I worked double shifts when she was little because I wanted her to have the best education. I skipped vacations so she could attend dance classes. I drove an old pickup truck for nearly 15 years because every extra dollar went toward her dreams. When her mother passed away, she was only 13. That day, I became both father and mother. I learned how to braid her hair after watching online tutorials late at night. I attended every school event, even when I had to trade work hours to be there. I burned dinners, ruined laundry, and embarrassed her 100 times, trying to be the parent she deserved. She used to hug me every night before going to bed. She would whisper, "Dad, thank you for never leaving me." Those words became the fuel that kept me moving through the hardest years of my life. As she grew older, everything changed slowly. College introduced her to new friends, a new career introduced her to a different lifestyle, and eventually, a man entered her life. His name was Ethan. At first, I truly wanted to like him. I invited him over for dinner, I helped him fix his car, I even offered to pay for a professional certification course that he said would improve his career. He smiled, he thanked me, but every time I looked into his eyes, I felt something I couldn't explain. It wasn't hatred, it wasn't anger, it was calculation, almost as if every conversation with me had a purpose beyond simple kindness. Whenever my daughter left the room, Ethan became strangely quiet. Whenever she returned, he suddenly became cheerful again. Small things, tiny details, but fathers notice things others don't. One evening, my daughter called me. "Dad, Ethan proposed." I couldn't stop smiling. I congratulated her. She cried with happiness. Then she said something that filled my heart with pride. "Dad, I want you to walk me down the aisle." I sat in silence for several seconds because I couldn't hold back my tears. That single sentence erased every lonely night I'd spent raising her alone. Of course I said yes. Over the next several months, wedding planning took over everyone's lives. The venue, the flowers, the photographer, the live band, the catering, everything had to be perfect. Whenever my daughter worried about expenses, I always gave the same answer. "Don't worry about the money. This is your special day." She would smile and hug me. "You've already done enough, Dad." But I hadn't. Quietly, without telling anyone, I paid deposit after deposit. The reception hall, the wedding planner, the floral designer, the musicians, the transportation. I wasn't trying to buy love. I simply wanted my daughter to have the wedding her mother always dreamed she would have. I never asked for recognition. Nobody needed to know. Watching her smile would be enough. As the wedding day approached, something strange happened. Phone calls became shorter, messages received slower replies, family gatherings became smaller. Sometimes I discovered plans only after they had already happened. When I asked about it, my daughter always blamed stress. "I'm just overwhelmed, Dad." I believed her, because that's what fathers do. We choose trust over suspicion. A week before the wedding, I called to ask if she needed any last-minute help. She sounded distracted. "No, Dad, everything's under control." I laughed. "I'll still arrive early. There are always surprises at weddings." There was a long pause, long enough for me to wonder if the call had dropped. Finally, she answered softly, "Yeah, sure." Her voice didn't sound excited, but I convinced myself she was simply exhausted. The night before the ceremony, I carefully prepared my suit. It was the same navy blue suit I had worn at her college graduation. She once told me I looked handsome in it. I polished my shoes until I could see my reflection. I ironed my white shirt twice. I even practiced my speech one final time. Not because I wanted attention, because I wanted every word to honor my daughter and her late mother. Before going to bed, I opened an old photo album. There she was, a tiny little girl sitting on my shoulders at the county fair. Another picture showed her missing her front teeth while holding her first bicycle. Then one from high school, then graduation. Every page reminded me how quickly life moves. I smiled through tears. Tomorrow, I thought, tomorrow she'll begin a new chapter, and I'll proudly watch her walk into it. The next morning, I woke before sunrise. I shaved carefully, fixed my tie 3 different times, placed a small photograph of her mother inside my jacket. I whispered, "I know you're watching. I'll take good care of our little girl today." Driving to the venue, I couldn't stop smiling. Every traffic light felt too long. Every mile felt endless. I wasn't just attending a wedding. I was fulfilling the greatest responsibility a father could ever receive. When I finally arrived, the parking lot was already filling with expensive cars. Guests were laughing, children were running across the lawn, music floated through the warm afternoon air. Everything looked beautiful. I grabbed the carefully wrapped wedding gift from my back seat and walked toward the entrance. As I stepped closer, I noticed something unusual. Several relatives looked away the moment they saw me. An old family friend opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but then lowered his head and walked away. For the first time that day, an uncomfortable feeling settled deep inside my chest. I didn't know it yet, but within the next few minutes, my daughter was about to say words that would change our relationship forever.
I froze. Maybe I had misunderstood what was happening. Maybe someone had made a mistake. I smiled and continued walking toward the entrance. Then I saw her, my little girl, standing at the front doors of the wedding venue in a beautiful white dress. For a brief second, all the years disappeared. I didn't see a bride. I saw the little girl who used to run into my arms after school. I raised my hand to wave. She looked at me. Our eyes met. But instead of smiling, she began walking toward me with slow, nervous steps. There was no happiness on her face, no excitement, only fear. Behind her stood Ethan, his arms folded across his chest, watching, waiting. When my daughter finally reached me, she avoided looking directly into my eyes. "Dad?" Her voice was barely louder than a whisper. I smiled warmly. "You look beautiful." She swallowed hard. "Thank you." I held out the wrapped wedding gift. "I've been waiting for this day for a long time." She didn't take it. Instead, she looked over her shoulder toward Ethan. He gave her a small nod. Then she turned back to me. "Dad, I'm sorry." My smile slowly disappeared. "I'm sorry, what?" "But you weren't invited." For several seconds, the entire world became silent. The music, the conversations, the laughter, everything disappeared. Only those 4 words remained. You weren't invited. I stared at her. What?" Tears filled her eyes. "Please don't make this harder." I looked around confused. There must be some misunderstanding. I stopped myself. No, this wasn't the time to mention money. "I thought you asked me to walk you down the aisle." She lowered her head. "Plans changed." Behind her, Ethan finally stepped forward. "I'm going to need you to leave." His tone was cold, professional, almost rehearsed. I looked directly at him. "This is between my daughter and me." He didn't move. "My wife has already explained everything." My wife. The words echoed inside my head. Not my daughter, his wife. It felt as though he had erased 28 years with a single sentence. Several guests had begun watching. Whispers spread through the entrance. Some recognized me. Others clearly had no idea why the father of the bride wasn't being welcomed. I looked back at my daughter. "Sweetheart, if I've done something wrong, tell me. I'll fix it." She began crying. "I can't. Please, just leave." I searched her face for answers, but every time she looked at me, her eyes drifted back toward Ethan, as if she needed permission to even breathe. Something wasn't right. This wasn't the daughter I had raised. She was terrified, not angry, terrified. I took one slow step closer. "I love you. No matter what happens today, I love you." She covered her mouth to stop herself from crying, but Ethan stepped between us. "That's enough. You need to leave." Security guards standing nearby slowly approached, not aggressively, just carefully. One of them recognized the tension. "Sir, is everything okay?" I looked at him, then back at my daughter, then at the dozens of guests pretending not to watch. I realized something. If I argued, today would become a scandal. Every headline would become about family drama, not about her wedding. Even after everything, I still wanted to protect her. So I simply nodded. "I understand." I placed the wedding gift on a nearby bench. "It was meant for both of you." Neither of them touched it. I adjusted my jacket, straightened my tie, and forced myself to smile. "I hope today brings you happiness." Those were the hardest words I have ever spoken. I turned around and quietly walked away. Not one tear fell while people were watching, because fathers learned long ago, sometimes strength means crying later. I reached my car, closed the door, and finally, everything inside me collapsed. My hands shook so violently that I couldn't even place the keys into the ignition. I rested my forehead against the steering wheel. Images flooded my mind, teaching her how to ride a bicycle, holding her hand on her first day of school, working overnight shifts, missing birthdays with friends because overtime meant paying her tuition. Every sacrifice, every promise, every memory, all ending in 4 simple words: "You weren't invited." After nearly 20 minutes, my phone buzzed. It was my younger sister. "Where are you?" I answered quietly. "I'm leaving." "What?" "They said I wasn't invited." Silence. Then, "What are you talking about? I just watched security escort you outside. I thought it was some misunderstanding." "It wasn't." She sounded furious. "I'm coming after you." "No, stay. Today isn't about me." She lowered her voice. "Something feels wrong. I've been here since morning. Ethan has been controlling everything. He even changed the seating chart. He removed several family members." My grip tightened around the steering wheel. "What do you mean?" "He said only people who support their future should stay close." The sentence chilled me. Support their future? What exactly did that mean? Before I could ask another question, another call came through. Unknown number. I ignored it. Seconds later, another unknown number. Then another. 3 calls within 1 minute. I finally answered. "Hello?" A nervous female voice spoke. "Mr. Harrison?" "Yes?" "This is Melissa from Grand Crown Events, the wedding planning company. Is everything all right?" I hesitated. I wasn't sure whether I should call." My heart began beating faster. "What happened?" "We've been trying to reach you all morning." "Reach me?" "Yes, there seems to be confusion regarding today's payments." I frowned. "What confusion?" "The groom requested that all remaining balances be transferred to a different account yesterday evening." I sat upright. "A different account?" "Yes, but according to our records, you're the primary financial guarantor." For several seconds, neither of us spoke. I quietly asked, "What exactly are you trying to tell me?" She took a deep breath. "Sir, we were instructed not to contact you, but every contract we have contains only one authorized signature." I closed my eyes. "My signature?" "Yes." Another long silence. Then she asked the question that changed everything. "Would you still like today's payments to be processed?" I looked through my windshield. The wedding venue stood only a few hundred feet away. Guests continued entering, music still playing. Inside, the ceremony was preparing to begin. Outside, a father sat alone in his car,
holding the power to determine whether every reservation, every vendor, every limousine, every flower arrangement, and every final payment would go through or stop within the next few minutes.
I didn't answer Melissa immediately. Instead, I looked at the wedding venue one more time. The decorations sparkled under the afternoon sun. Luxury cars continued arriving. Guests laughed as if nothing in the world could possibly go wrong. Inside that beautiful building, my daughter had just asked her own father to leave. Outside, every contract that made this wedding possible carried my signature. Melissa finally broke the silence. "Mr. Harrison, are you still there?" "Yes." "I need your authorization within the next few minutes." I closed my eyes. "Tell me something honestly." "Of course." "If I do nothing, what happens?" She took a careful breath. "Every remaining payment will be processed automatically from the account authorized on the contracts." "And if I revoke authorization?" Another pause. "The florist stops decorating. The musicians stop performing. The luxury vehicles won't complete service. The reception hall will not receive final confirmation. The catering company has the right to suspend dinner." I slowly leaned back in my seat. Everything depended on one decision, not because I wanted control, but because Ethan had deliberately left everything under my responsibility while making sure I wasn't allowed to attend. It made no sense, unless he believed I would quietly keep paying no matter how I was treated. Melissa spoke again. "I know this is personal, but legally, the decision belongs to you." "I understand. I'll call you back." I ended the call. The silence inside my car felt heavier than ever. A minute later, another call came. This time, it was my attorney, Richard Coleman. We had known each other for nearly 20 years. I answered. "Richard, I just received 3 urgent emails from different wedding vendors. I was about to call you, so you've heard. I've heard enough to know something isn't right." He lowered his voice. "Did you authorize any transfer of financial responsibility?" "No." "Did you remove your name from the contracts?" "No." He sighed. "Then nobody else has legal authority to change them." I stared through the windshield. "Richard, can I ask you something? Anything. If someone publicly humiliates you and then expects you to quietly keep paying the bill, what would you do?" He didn't answer immediately. Finally, he said, "I wouldn't make decisions while angry. I'd make decisions based on respect." Those words stayed with me. Based on respect, not revenge. Respect. I thanked him and hung up. Before I could think any further, someone knocked on my driver's window. It was my younger sister. She had ignored my request to stay inside. The moment I unlocked the door, she climbed into the passenger seat. Her face was filled with anger. "I can't believe what they did." I remained quiet. She looked at me carefully. "Are you crying?" I smiled weakly. I already finished crying. She reached over and squeezed my hand. "I've never seen you like this. I've never felt like this." She shook her head. "You know what hurts the most?" "What?" "What? Your daughter hasn't looked happy all day." I turned toward her. "What do you mean?" "I've been watching since morning. She's been forcing every smile. Ethan keeps whispering in her ear. Whenever family members try to speak with her, he interrupts." I frowned. Did anyone notice? Everyone noticed, but nobody wanted to ruin the wedding. My sister hesitated before speaking again. There was something else. "What?" "What?" "I accidentally overheard Ethan talking with one of his friends." "What did he say?" "He laughed." Then she repeated his exact words. "Once today is over, everything belongs to us." A cold feeling spread through my body. Everything belongs to us? What exactly was he talking about? The wedding? Money? Something else?
Before I could ask another question, my phone vibrated again. This time, it was my daughter. For a moment, I couldn't bring myself to answer. Then I finally pressed accept. Neither of us spoke. I could hear wedding music playing behind her, soft piano, guests talking. She whispered, "Dad?" "Yes. I'm sorry." My heart nearly broke hearing her voice. "Sweetheart, tell me what's happening." "I can't." "Why?" "I just can't." "Were those your words or someone else's?" She began crying. "I have to go." "Wait, I only need one answer. Do you want me here?" Silence. Long, painful silence. Then, very quietly, she said, "I don't know anymore." The call ended. I stared at the phone for several seconds. My sister had tears in her eyes. She doesn't sound like herself. No, she doesn't. 5 minutes later, Melissa called again. "I'm so sorry to bother you, but we absolutely need your decision." I looked toward the venue. The ceremony was scheduled to begin any minute. Guests were taking their seats. Photographers were moving into position. The string quartet had started playing. I asked one simple question. "Melissa, if I suspend today's payments, will the ceremony stop immediately?" "No. The ceremony itself can still begin, but once vendors receive notification, services will gradually be suspended. So nobody will be embarrassed in the middle of the vows." "No. It would affect everything afterwards. Reception, dinner, entertainment, transportation, final venue access." I nodded slowly. "Thank you." She waited. "So what would you like us to do?" I looked down at the photograph inside my jacket, the picture of my late wife. I remembered something she once told me. Never let people mistake your kindness for weakness. For years, I had confused sacrifice with love. Maybe today, life was forcing me to learn the difference. I picked up the phone again, took a deep breath, opened my mouth, and prepared to give Melissa the one instruction that would decide the fate of the entire wedding.
I closed my eyes for one final moment. Then I spoke. "Melissa, please suspend every remaining payment until I personally authorize them." The line went completely silent. "Sir, are you certain?" "Yes. I'll take full responsibility." "I understand. We'll begin the suspension immediately." The call ended. I placed my phone on the dashboard. For the first time that day, I felt no anger, only peace. Not because I wanted to ruin my daughter's wedding, but because I refused to let someone use my kindness while treating me like I didn't exist. About 15 minutes later, my phone exploded with notifications. Missed calls, text messages, voicemails, one after another. The florist, the venue manager, the transportation company, the wedding coordinator. Then, Ethan called. I watched his name appear on the screen. I answered calmly. "What do you want?" His voice was nothing like before. Gone was the confidence. Gone was the arrogance. "What did you do?" "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't play games with me." "The caterer just stopped preparing dinner." "The venue manager says payment authorization has been suspended." "The limousine company is refusing to continue service. Guests are asking questions." I listened quietly. Then I asked a simple question. "Didn't my daughter tell me I wasn't invited?" He became silent. You said I wasn't part of this wedding. So why would I expect you to keep paying for it? His breathing grew heavier. You can't do this. I already did. He shouted, "People are watching." So were they when your wife asked me to leave. He had no answer. A few seconds later, he hung up. Less than a minute passed before my daughter called. Her voice was shaking. "Dad?" "Yes." "Please, can we talk?" "Of course." "I'll come outside." "No. I'll come to you." A few minutes later, I saw her running across the parking lot. Still wearing her wedding dress. Still holding back tears. The moment she reached my car, she opened the door and collapsed into the passenger seat. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she burst into tears. "I'm so sorry." I handed her a handkerchief. "I know." "No, you don't understand. I wanted you there." "Then why wasn't I?" She cried even harder. "Ethan told me. If you came, he would cancel the wedding." I frowned. "He said you were controlling. He said you wanted everyone to admire you. He kept telling me that if I chose you, he would leave me at the altar." She covered her face. "I was scared. I thought if I lost him, I'd lose everything." I gently placed my hand on hers. "No, you wouldn't have lost everything. You would still have had me." She looked at me through tears. "I know. I see that now." Then she whispered the words I had waited all day to hear. "Dad, will you forgive me?" Without hesitation, I wrapped my arms around her. "Sweetheart, I forgave you before you even asked." She cried against my shoulder like the little girl she used to be. For several minutes, nothing else mattered. Finally, she sat back and wiped away her tears. "I'm going to spend the rest of my life earning back your trust." I smiled. "You don't have to earn my love. You already have it. But trust, that takes time." She nodded. "I know." Months later, she started a new chapter in her life. She returned every dollar I spent on the wedding, not because I asked, but because she wanted to take responsibility for her choices. She rebuilt relationships with the family she had pushed away. Most importantly, she learned that love never demands you abandon the people who sacrificed everything for you. As for me, I learned something too. Being a loving parent doesn't mean saying yes to everything. Sometimes, the greatest act of love is having the courage to say no. Because kindness without self-respect becomes permission for others to hurt you. A father should always forgive, but forgiveness should never require surrendering your dignity. And if this story teaches us anything, it's this: never take for granted the people who stood beside you long before success, celebrations, or romance entered your life. Because one day, the applause will end. The decorations will come down. The wedding photos will fade. But the love of a parent, if you protect it, can last forever. The end.